The risk of a 2 or 3 front war is all too real. Israel may not be able to handle it alone, but it never has had to. There's always Big Uncle Sam that's got its back. Last week, we spoke about the U.S. strategy in Israel, about how Washington is backing Tel Aviv both militarily and diplomatically. And so far, the U.S. has walked the talk. One of America's most lethal weapons is already near Israel. An aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Another one is on its way, the USS Dwight Eisenhower. It should reach the Eastern Mediterranean in a few days. These carriers do not travel alone, of course. Each moves with an entourage of sophisticated support craft, which means each carrier is a floating fortress that can bring Israel's foes to their knees. And that's just the beginning. Our next report tells you about the firepower that America has deployed to help Israel.
The USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group is now in the region, led by the largest aircraft carrier in the world. We've augmented U.S. fighter aircraft squadrons in the Middle East, and the U.S. Department of Defense stands fully ready to deploy additional assets if necessary.
And that is why we also just recently announced that the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier and her escort ships will be heading that way to be available for regional deterrent operations.
2 American aircraft carriers will soon be positioned in the waters near Israel. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower is on its way. It left American shores on Saturday. It's expected to reach the Eastern Mediterranean in a few days. It'll join the USS Gerald R. Ford that's already stationed there. How deadly are both carriers? Let's take a look. The USS Gerald R. Ford carries 4 F/A-18 Super Hornet fighter squadrons. That's about 40 Super Hornets. The Eisenhower has a similar number of F/A-18s. These combat jets are outfitted with rotary cannons, air-to-air missiles, and air-to-surface missiles. Everything needed for dogfights and airstrikes. But it's not just Super Hornets that the US is bringing in these carriers. There are electronic warfare aircraft, command and control aircraft, a fleet of helicopters. Combined, the 2 carriers bring over 150 aircraft. Then there are the other ships that are part of each carrier's entourage. The Ford travels with a cruiser, the USS Normandy. It also has 4 destroyers in its strike group. The warships are armed with Tomahawk cruise missiles and can pack a serious punch. The Eisenhower also travels with 1 cruiser and 3 destroyers. Basically, both carriers are mobile bases capable of bombing enemy nations into submission. And that's just one part of the American deployment around Israel. The US has bases all over West Asia, both in Israel and friendly Arab nations. American Air Force jets are flying to all these bases in a show of force. F-16, A-10, and F-15E squadrons in the region are being augmented by more jets. Their size has almost been doubled in the last few days. Even before the arrival of the Eisenhower, the US has around 100 fighter jets at the ready. All this is for deterrence. They're a warning to Israel's enemies. If anyone attacks Israel, the US can join the war at a moment's notice.